Chapter 5. Ben's eyes very nearly popped out of their sockets. You want to pull a what? Shh, whispered Griffin. It was lunch recess and the playground was crowded. A heist. Like in the movies? A robbery? That's stealing. Not stealing, Griffin amended. Stealing back. There's a big difference. Are the police going to think so? What would the police think of a store owner who rips kids off? Griffin challenged. Swindle, Ben said with a sigh. Never trust anybody whose name sounds like Swindle. He's the ultimate swindle, Griffin agreed. He sure swindled me, and the only way to get the card back is to take it. What do you say? A hand came down on Ben's shoulder. I say it's time for Mr. Slovik's allergy medication, announced Nurse Savage. Oh, right, exclaimed Ben, startled. The last thing he wanted for this robbery talk to be overheard by the school nurse. He began to follow her through a maze of whirling jump ropes. Griffin grabbed his friend's wrist. Hey, if your allergies are so bad, he asked in a low voice, why weren't you sneezing from the old dust and mold in the old Rockford house? Ben shrugged. Maybe the medicine really works. Nurse Savage held the door open, and Ben disappeared inside the building. What the? Something jagged scratched Griffin in the back of his neck. He wheeled around to find a sixth grader, the size of an NFL linebacker, stabbing at him with a long branch. Darren, what are you doing? Griffin shouted. Can't you tell? Darren Vader jeered, poking the stick at the bridge of Griffin's nose. I'm field testing my new invention, the dumb pick. Sorry, I thought your head was a coconut. Angrily, Griffin slapped the branch away. It's a smart pick, you idiot, and it's a miracle of technology. He would never have admitted his own doubts about his father's brainchild to Darren. You wouldn't even know about it if you weren't such a snoop. I wasn't snooping, Darren defended himself. My mom had the papers spread out on the kitchen table. Mrs. Vader was a lawyer who'd filed the smart pick patent. Yeah, and way to blab it all around school, Griffin accused. Excuse me for making sure a brilliant inventor gets some credit. You guys will be rich someday. You know, when millions of people decide to quit their jobs and start picking fruit. Shut up, Griffin thundered. You've always got so much to say, but when it comes to action, you're nothing. What about the old Rockford house, huh? Where were you Friday night? I had the flu, Darren mumbled. You don't look like you're at death's door. It was a 24-hour bug, Darren exclaimed. There was a lot of that going around, Griffin chuckled disapprovingly, raising his voice to reach some of the other sixth graders nearby. Nice show of solidarity, you guys, leaving Ben and me to stand up for the kids in this town. Sorry, Griffin, said Ananita Benson, who went by her climbing nickname, Pitch. My family was at the indoor rock wall. I completely spaced. Me too, admitted Marcus Oliver, totally blanked. Griffin was unconvinced. You guys don't blank when it comes to filling Ben full of stories about railway spikes and possessed pets. There's no such thing as a possessed pet, lectured Savannah Drysdale. Animals are all innocent inside. And speaking of animals, that's why I couldn't be there on Friday. Madame Curie was about to litter my hamster. And? Pitch prompted. It was a boy, Savannah reported happily, and another boy and 3 girls. Well, I didn't miss it for any dumb reason like that, said Logan Kellerman haughtily. I have an audition for an acne cream commercial. I had to stay home and rehearse. Rehearse what? Darren laughed, squeezing zits. That shows what you know about acting. It's all emotion. The audience has to really believe my heartache over having a pimple. You are a pimple, Darren grunted. Whatever the reason, we're all sorry, Griffin, Pitch put in. We shouldn't have flaked on you that way. Maybe some of us were a little scared. Maybe we just didn't think it was worth it. Walking past that big pile of rubble this morning, I wished I had been there. Our loss. You bet it's your loss, Griffin said resentfully. But with the fruits of that adventure and the Babe Ruth card in S. Wendell Palomino's chubby hands, he was in no mood to tell them why. Mr. Martinez's students were working on their creative writing assignments when Ben got back to class. He deliberately avoided Griffin's searching eyes as he took the seat next to his friend. Let's plan a get-together after school to start work on the plan, Griffin whispered eagerly. Every second he'd spent with the nurse, Ben had been dreading this conversation. Since the days when Griffin's plan had involved bicycles with training wheels, Ben had always been in. It had become as constant as the sunrise. That's what made this so difficult. Griffin, I can't. Obviously, we'll have to do some surveillance on the store, Griffin went on. Pinpoint the weak spots. Ben wasn't even surprised that Griffin had missed his refusal. Once his friend was on a mission, nothing short of an earthquake would get his attention. You're not listening, man. I can't do it. The answer is no. That was earthquake enough. What are you talking about? Griffin asked. Why not? Ben looked at him helplessly. Where do I start? It's against the law. We'll never get away with it. And it's just plain wrong. It isn't wrong, Griffin said stoutly. What Swindle did, that's wrong. We're just setting it right again. Okay, so it's not wrong, but it's wrong for us. We're not burglars. And I know we talk about how kids can do anything adults can, but not this. Griffin's voice rose in tone and volume. Then Swindle wins! Shh! Hissed Mr. Martinez from behind his desk. How can you let that jerk get away with taking advantage of us? Griffin continued in a slightly lower voice. How can you let him get rich doing it? That's my card. My money. Our money, because I was going to give you half. I don't want to be rich, Ben shot back. Okay, maybe I do, but not this way. Boys, quiet, the teacher said warningly. I have to do this, Griffin pleaded. I can't explain, but there's a good reason. Of all my plans, this one is the most important. You always say that. Every plan is the most important, till the next one comes along. This time it's true, Griffin exclaimed. The money. Griffin and Ben, Mr. Martinez interrupted angrily. Since you can't work quietly as neighbors, you're going to have to move. Ben, you go over and sit with Logan. Griffin, take the empty seat behind Melissa. But, Mr. Martinez, Griffin began, now. As he gathered up his papers, Griffin looked beseechingly at his friend. He mouthed the word, please. Ben could barely muster the strength of will to shake his head no. Griffin's despair was total. Year in and year out, there had always been one constant, one thing that could be relied on, through floods and asteroid strikes, the unchanging fact that Ben was willing to follow him anywhere. Yet today, with so much at stake, his loyal friend had let him down. He had never felt so helpless.